Hello, welcome to Cinephile Entertainment. I'm the Cinephile critic, and today I'll be reviewing this film. Is that an American accent I'm hearing? Crazy Rich Asians. So Crazy Rich Asian is a film directed by John M. Chu and stars Constant Wu as Rachel Chu, Henry Golding as Nick Young, Michelle Yao as Eleanor, Gemma Chow as Astrid, Goh Peek Ling as Awkwafina, Amanda Lin as Jin, Aramatina Lee as Sunya, Charlie Wu as Henry, and Bernard Tai as Nico. Crazy Rich Asian. So Crazy Rich Asian is really centered around the character Rachel Chu. She has her Prince Charming, Nick Young. He is part of a dynasty and wealth. They are very wealthy. Kind of like what the Rockefellers is to the west. That's what Nick Young's family dynasty is to the east. He found this girl. They've been dating for about a year, and he's been keeping certain secrets about his family, his life. What happens is he's invited to his best friend's wedding. He decides to bring her. This is the first time that she will meet his family. They're very wealthy. Basically, the drama pursues. So that's kind of like what Crazy Rich Asian is about. Now, I will say that I was actually quite disappointed when I saw this film, because when you're talking about Asian people, yes, food is part of the culture, history is part of the culture, which you don't have any history here apart from where Nick Young's family comes from. But also language is a massive part of the culture. I feel that in this film, yes, everybody's Asian, but very few people are speaking another language. And the other issue that I had with this film as well, most of the people in this film, they speak a certain type of English. And when I'm talking about a certain type, I'm talking about type of upbringing certain people would have had to have in order to speak this type of English. This is very much, an Eton type English. This is very much, Oxford English, those private schools, those very expensive private schools, those Harrow Boys private school type of English. You would have to have been raised in that culture in order to be speaking this type of English that is regularly displayed on this film. And I'm telling you this, I've met a lot of people in my life, and there's been very few people, even well-educated people, even people who've gone to private schools, that speak this type of English and has this type of accent that they do in this film, because it's rare. It's very rare. You have to be in a certain class, you have to be in a certain type of networking, and you have to have gone to a certain type of school. And to have this film display mostly this type of accent and this way of speaking, I was actually quite disappointed, because when I went to school, majority of people I used to hang around with were Malaysian, and there were Chinese Malaysians, some were Malay, and some were Indian Malaysian. You heard a lot of la. So when at one point Rachel was at her friend Awkwafina's house in Singapore, and the family there, I felt that they were more representative of a type of Asian culture, but with satire within it. But when the lady of the house was speaking, and she said, "Oh, it's over there, la," and she uses the la, I was like, yes, finally, I get to hear some Asian cultural language being used. So I was actually very happy with that. But it's very few and far between in this film. This film, even though they are Asian, and even though this film takes place in Singapore, and even though they have the backdrop of the skyline, and yes, they do showcase their food, you don't have that language in there. And that is a massive disconnect when you see everybody speaking impeccable English with an English accent. It's very weird. That's why I done the quote in the beginning, because I thought it was quite ironic that she said it was an American accent that I hear, where all you hear in this film is the English accent. Really doesn't make any sense. The second thing is, I didn't like the setup between Rachel Chu and Nick Young's relationship, in terms of I love them together, but I didn't like, this is not a spoiler, I didn't like the fact that she had no clue that he was rich. I mean, how do you not know when you've been dating someone for a year? Really? Like, I'm sorry, rich people don't hide it that well. They really don't. You can tell. It has been my experience that you can tell when people are wealthy in general. Not all the time. If they are trying to hide it like really well, then they will hide it. Most noticeably here and there, you can tell. You can tell by the watch that they have, the type of suits that they have. If their suit suits are always been tailored. The type of shirts that they have, their cufflinks, you know, even the type of apartment that he's living in New York. New York is very expensive. So I'm just saying that I just don't like that setup of, oh, I didn't know, and that it just insults my intelligence and insults the intelligence of the character in this film. It cheapens her character. She wasn't even able to observe this. The other thing I had a problem with was the opening scene. I don't know exactly why the opening scene was there. It did nothing to the film. It didn't work for me personally. I have never seen, I don't know, it does happen to Asian people, then more people from the Asian diaspora need to speak out about it, but I never knew that if an Asian person walked into the store that they are discriminated against. I don't know, I could be ignorant in that situation, but that opening scene in this film, personally, I don't think it worked because you can tell that she had money. Her bags were dripping Louis Vuitton, and also there's a lot of wealth from Russia, the Middle East, and China, Japan, Singapore, Malaysia. There's a lot of wealth there in that part of the world. I personally don't know that does happen. However, it didn't suit this film. It didn't make any sense, to be honest. It was only there just to really introduce this type of character and to know that she's got money. That's basically what it was. I think they could have done it a different way. But anyway, they did it this way, and I'm personally saying I think that it worked. Anyway, having sifted through all the bad things that I don't like about this film, I feel like this film was acted rather very well. I think the main actress, she is amazing. Countess, the way how she plays her character Rachel, she played it so well. We are taking in Rachel's view of the world. We are looking at her experience, her going into a foreign land that she does not know, and her being different from the others. Even though she's Asian, she's a different Asian. She was raised differently. She wasn't raised around money. Her mum worked hard, and she has worked very hard to be a professor. She doesn't fit necessarily in this particular environment that Nick Young has grown up in. And so her experience is very relatable, and the way how she plays her character is phenomenal. The movements and the stages of pain on her face as she goes in different situations, she does it very well. It's very subtle, but you understand what she's going through and how she is feeling. And I felt that if it wasn't for Countess and the way how she played Rachel, this film would have been far less of a decent film than what it is. Rachel Chu, she's fantastic, and I love her mum as well. Nick Young is good at being the charismatic rich guy. I wouldn't say that there's much depth to him. He's not the main protagonist, he's just the prize. That's what I said. And I love the way how Michelle Yeoh plays her character Eleanor. She is regal. I've seen quite a few films of Michelle Yeoh. I love her. I think she's just breathtaking in most films that she is. She's absolutely fantastic. And to see her in this film, again, as a queen in her own right, I absolutely love seeing her character. I did like to some point the excess. I did like the way how some parts are filmed. The best person in this film, apart from Rachel Chu, is actually Awkwafina. She is fantastic. She's kind of like the American hip slang girl. She's fantastic. Every time she's on the screen, she doesn't disappoint. I loved her energy. She made this film a lot more fun, especially in the beginning and the middle, a lot more bearable to watch until the film really got to its apex, which is the third act. Now, what I will say is the first act in this film, I don't really care for. The second act in the film's still slightly getting better. By the time it comes to the third act, it had won me over, and that's purely because of Rachel's character and her arc, and Eleanor's character, and Rachel's mum in this film. Those characters really make this film pop. I would say that this third act is the best act in this film, but also it hits a lot of notes right. Almost a different film you're watching in the third act, but it's still linked to the first and second act. But the way how they spun it around, I felt was just amazing. Like the third act, it makes this film better. It does make this film worth watching. We'll actually see this again based on the third act. I think the third act was fantastic. This film had the best wedding I have ever seen displayed on screen. I mean, Western weddings, don't even touch it, okay? This wedding, it was artistic. It was beautiful. I mean, the creativity, I'm telling you, if you see this film, guys, if you get married, you probably won't want to take your wife to see this film, but this film had the best wedding I have ever seen. I have to give a clap to the director, the people who set that scene up. That was phenomenal. Can't fault it whatsoever. And the way how they include the music, the close-up of Nick's character and Rachel's character, it was just done beautifully. So I thought it was very disingenuous of the film to have all these Asians together and none of them are speaking in their own language apart from the grandmother. When I hanged around a lot of Malaysians, even if I was around them or my friend was around them, and a few of them may not know how to speak things of Mandarin or Cantonese, they will still speak it among each other, whether you know how to speak it or not. That I wanted to see a little bit more. I'm not saying that this film should have been in Chinese, but I'm just saying a few sentences here, there, I think would have brought it a bit together, and I would just like to see a little bit more mother tongue flowing through. That's it, just to connect everything all together. That was my feeling on Crazy Rich Asian. I will rate this film as E for entertaining. I do feel that there's a lot of entertainment value in this film. I thought that this one was fun. The third act is amazing. The third act brings everything together. However, there was a question that I would still raise to my audience, like I did with Mile 22. Does the third act being the way how it is justify the first act being the way how it is and the second act being the way how it is in order to get to the creme de la creme of the third act? I would love to know your opinion because, you know, I find that very interesting when films do that. Anyway, have you seen this film? What did you think about this film? Please comment below. I would love to know your opinion. Let's get this conversation started. And thank you for watching my review. If you liked what you saw, then please click subscribe. If you're thinking, darling, I need to see more, then hopefully I will see you again. And remember, until next time, keep safe. Bye.